Good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. Tonight on the show, I'm delighted to welcome Wan Saiful Wan Jan, Chairman of PTPTN, the National Higher Education Fund Corporation. He's also the Supreme Council Member for Bersatu. Welcome to the show, Wan. Now, in the next half an hour, we've got a lot of ground to cover, everything from the stability of Bersatu within the Pakatan Harapan Coalition, the leadership of Dr. Mahathir, as well as public sentiments towards the current government. But I'd like to begin with PTPTN, if I may. Now, it was set up to help students to pay for their tertiary education, but today it's sitting on about 40 billion ringgit, a pile of debt of 40 billion ringgit. That is among the highest with a government guarantee after 1MDB. So I want to talk to you a little bit about updates of a cabinet promise that they will be deciding on a new repayment mechanism for PTPTN before the end of the year. Do you have any updates for us, Wan?
Well, depending on how you look at it, some people say that our problem is actually bigger than 1MDB. But to be honest, this year has been quite a good year for us in terms of achieving our targets and making sure that we change the direction a little bit. You see, let's look into history a little bit and then we move on to the current situation. The reality is, when PTPTN was set up, it was set up with a very good intention, which is to help people who do not have other sources of income to pay for their studies in universities, higher education institutions. But the model was wrong. Right from the beginning, the model was wrong. Because what happened was, the model was set up in such a way that PTPTN had to borrow from financial markets at higher rates and lend to students at lower rate. So at the moment, the figure that we like to use, this is on average, we borrow at 5%, we lend at 1%. So immediately there's a 4% missing.
Yep.
And that debt has been piling up year on year. And then the policy as well is one in which anybody who applies will get the loan. And this creates a problem. This creates graduates who end up with quite a big student debt when they graduated from their studies. We're trying to fix that. It's taking quite some time for us to come to the conclusion that the current model is simply not sustainable. When I got into the office in June last year, I asked the team to do some basic studies on the model and the operations of PTPTN. And I told the minister that the model is just not sustainable. The model is quite ridiculous, to be honest. You want to sustain yourself, but you borrow at higher rate, lend at lower rate.
And can you name the person responsible for creating this little monster?
Well, but it evolved over time, so let's not go into that. I really do not like to go into this habit of blaming the past, but we just need to appreciate the history. So when I got into office, what I did was made a proposal. This was back in September, October, saying that we need to revamp the whole model of higher education financing. But the focus at government level at that time was to fix the repayment mechanism. So the instruction that I got was, yes, we know that the model is problematic, but let's focus on making repayment mechanism easier for the borrowers. Find a better rate for them to pay and so on. We tried to do that, but the government looked at the proposal and the government said, this is still not quite right. So we went on another round of study. But to cut long story short, after 18 months, we went back to the stage of my initial proposal.
Just to revamp the whole model.
To revamp the whole model. And the minister made this announcement. I'm really pleased with this announcement that the whole model will be reviewed and revamped. We have submitted our proposal on how that can be done. In summary, and I'm going to make this very short because I know I'm taking time here.
No. I want to hear the explanation. How are you looking to revamp this model?
In summary, we need to acknowledge that PTPTN is playing three different roles at the moment. One is savings. And so one is managing the saving from depositors, our SSPN account. Then we issue loans for students who want to continue to go into higher education. And we also manage the repayment of previous loans. So among these three, the saving part is profitable. We issue dividends. Our dividends are quite competitive. The incentive we have are really good. The future loans is really not problematic. If we can revamp the future loan structure, I think we can make it better for the borrowers. But the bit that's problematic is a third part, which is managing repayment. And that part, I think, is slowing down the reform of the two other segments. I think we need to acknowledge that there exist three different elements,
Okay.
and if only we can make sure that PTPTN give a bit more focus in different ways to these three. I can't go into the details yet because this is for the minister to consider and to announce, but basically I'm quite happy that we got to where we are now.
I mean, when you took on this position, I mean, this was a political hot potato. I mean, that's kind of understating the case, because it's about how people experience government, either a sense of entitlement or a sense of that they're being deprived, they're being taxed basically, and something is lost in their monthly income from the repayments. I mean, how have you tackled the communications of this? Because if this new model means that people are actually going to have to put out more money, they're not going to be necessarily happy unless they see a broader benefit to themselves, because this is, you have a kind of a broad perspective, a macro perspective, they have that individual perspective. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, but we need to communicate better, and this is also what we're trying to do. You see, at PTPTN, I think not many people will know about the saving scheme that we have, because over the last 20 years that we have existed, the emphasis has always been on the lending part. The name is Perbadanan Tabung Pendidikan Tinggi Nasional. But whenever people see the name, even though the word tabung is there, they always think about loan, pinjaman. And the focus has always been on the lending part. And I think this is wrong. We have been working very hard this year to change that perception so that people remember PTPTN as a savings organization with lending facility. And I think that requires a cultural shift, that requires a perception shift in the public. It will take time, but we have started that journey. Communication is the key. You mentioned this in your question just now. And I think this is a weakness of government as a whole. Government as well as Pakatan Harapan as a ruling coalition, and I'm not going to apologize for saying this, but it has been a miserable year in terms of communication. Take myself for example. In the manifesto, we promised several things. We promised that for borrowers, we're going to encourage employers to help pay for their loans. We have done that. We have created tax incentive for employers to join in and help pay for the borrowers, for the loans. We have also said in the manifesto that we will reward students who perform well. We have done that. We changed the loans into scholarships. We have also promised that we're going to abolish the travel blacklist. We have done that. But the thing that people focus on, including from within Pakatan Harapan, is a fourth item which we're working on, which is to tangguhkan,
Defer payments,
to
right?
defer the payment for those earning below 4,000 ringgit.
Correct.
We have financial restrictions on that one, financial constraints on that one, and we're working on it.
You're absolutely right. That is actually almost the only thing people fixate on, both media, the public, and politicians, opposition and otherwise, when it comes to PTPTN's performance. Are you frustrated about that?
Completely, because I go everywhere saying that 75% of the promises have been delivered. One is in the pipeline, and now we have a bigger review that will benefit the country as a whole in the future on higher education financing. But we ourselves keep harping on and on and on about this one thing as if we're not doing anything. And so this is the weakness of the government as a whole and Pakatan Harapan. Information and communication channels are disastrous, I think. They really need to fix it. One agency can try the best that they can do. We can try our best. But if the whole government machinery is not moving in the same direction, that will not happen.
Okay, we're going to come back and talk about this miserable year of communication for Pakatan Harapan right here on Consider This. Don't go anywhere.